All right, welcome. I wanted to record a quick video to help you out with this week's content because this is kind of the first time in week 3 where I think students really start to get what I'm trying to do with this class to help you really understand kind of the direction that we're trying to go. Because this week we're talking about essentially how is your product unique? Um, the big thing here is that you really need to take a little time either determining how your product is going to be unique or your experience is going to be unique. And that's kind of a tricky one early on with this type of experience because, I mean, really you're just kind of developing an understanding of how people use products. So let me first express that you don't have to really create, for this class, what I would consider like a perfect or a unique, really, really unique experience. But I do want you to try to examine different ways that you can make that experience unique. That's really the trick. So what I'm going to do to try to illustrate what I'm talking about here, because it may have just seemed like I just spoke in a circle, is I'm going to talk about how this week's content kind of relates to that and show you a couple of different ideas for projects that students created documentation for in a previous section of this course. So the big thing here is that we want to talk about how your product kind of fits in a grander scheme of things. When you're creating a interactive product, or you're creating an online experience or an internet experience for a product, you need to make sure that you're not just noise. If you're basically doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, if your product has no differentiation from any other product, why should anyone use your product? So that's what we're really talking about here. Now there's a couple of ways that we can kind of help work through that process, and those are tools that we talk about this week. So we're looking at kind of two different things that we could potentially develop for our projects for this course. One, something that's completely a unique experience. You're filling a niche that is just absolutely wide open. There's nothing there in that particular area of the market yet. That's one way that we can approach these projects, and it's great if you guys can come up with concepts, ideas that maybe there is something out there that you'd like to work on or develop that is going to do something in an innovative way that isn't currently actually nobody's actually really doing it that way. The other way is to look at what is the market currently and how can you expand on that market? How can you learn from what competitors are doing? Okay, so you need to be first looking at, like, is there something innovative that I can do? Is there a way that I can look at this, something that I can do that perhaps hasn't been done before, that nobody thought of delivering a product that way before? And then if you can't, and I know that's that's kind of a high end type of a idea concept, particularly for an early course, 2000 level course, for most of you. How can you simply just improve? Okay, now there's going to be a lot of you that'll probably fall into the latter category as you're going on through this project. You may even find an actual project to work on, something contemporary. Maybe you actually are working on a web design project for someone right now, and if you actually want to use that for the documentation that we're going to build for this course, that's great. That's fantastic. I've had students do that before, but what I want to see you do is really dive into how you are going to take that more traditional product and really dig into how you can help whatever customer you're working for expand their business by making their presence more unique? How do you help that customer innovate and do something differently? And I have an example for that. Now, a couple of things that are going to be a part of how you will create this more unique or innovative experience, you're going to position yourself, is you're going to, first, you really need to understand your audience. Okay, now we talked a little bit about audience in week 2, and there's a little bit more information in week 3. And one of the things that I see people fall into that's really a big mistake is that a lot of people, when they approach a project, well, the audience is everyone. Anybody can be part of the audience. And really, the mistake that you make there is that your audience can't really be everyone. Okay, if you think your audience is everyone, you're not breaking it down enough. And if you're trying to develop for everyone, you're not developing for anyone. That's the big issue here. So sometimes you may have a product that has a pretty wide audience, but you need to break down who's my primary audience, who's my secondary audience, and maybe even getting into a tertiary audience. So don't make the mistake of just saying, "Oh, I'm developing for everyone," because that's really not the way these products work. Not if you're really doing a good job with it. So audience is going to be a big part of this. Comparative analysis is part of it. Okay, so competitive analysis. What is already out there? What already exists? Okay, and if you're getting into a market where there is that, there are other products out there, how are you going to do things differently? How are you going to innovate? How are you going to improve? More important, you need to position yourself so that you are developing a product that is going to be easier, better, more innovative to use. If you're developing for a customer and they have like a standard service, you need to find a way to help them to carve out that niche so that they can develop more business. And of course, in turn, that develops more business for you. That's what we're talking about here. And oftentimes, as part of the comparative analysis, you can actually develop a better understanding of audience as well. So comparative analysis is actually really important. Now, I wanted to show you 2 products that I kind of think are interesting ideas from a previous course. And then I'm going to talk about another one that was really fun, but I don't have the documentation because it was a publisher file, and I don't have publisher on the computer on mine right now. So this is I have to, let me go back here. Sorry. I need to do screen share. It doesn't do me any good to go to, okay, so entire screen share. There we go. All right. Okay, so this is a product. This is something that a student did last year. And what the student did was basically tried to create a kind of an augmented reality type experience for national parks. And so basically she was trying to tap into the idea of expanding on the social experience of seeing wildlife in a national park. So you would use your GPS, the information that or location services, maybe not GPS, but the location services on your phone, social media, and then post your photographs of wildlife, and those photographs would then populate a database so that other people in that area could tap into and actually share that experience with you, and maybe able to even find that wildlife that you had seen. So if you're in, say, Yellowstone National Park, you see a bear, you take a photograph of the bear, provided you have data. That's a big stretch. Then other people may actually be able to engage in that experience socially. So here's an example of where a student actually had come up with this concept. Let me see if I can get to. She wasn't able to really create a lot of it was a great concept, but her documentation was not super highly designed. But I really think it was probably one of the most innovative projects we had. But you see here, where she was trying to develop little screens. These are basically paper prototypes for creating the an account, and then showing how, like, you would actually set it up so that it could tap into your location, and then as she goes through some of these prototypes, taking photographs using the phone's operating system, and again, then create that expanded social experience. So kind of a cool little thing. So that's something that I'm showing you as an example of where a student really tried to do something somewhat innovative. Now, another student, and this was a really good product here as well, was just building a website for a DJ company. And this was actually something the student was actively working on and developed the documentation and really, I think, created some interesting visuals, and then also came up with some interesting ideas as far as how this their work on a website could actually expand what this DJ was able to offer to customers. So the example here is to improve upon. And so her idea is that she was going to see if she could tap into some sort of application program interface or API, and as people developed playlists for whatever event they needed to have DJ'd, they could then share out that playlist to the customers using a service called Spotify. So, you're looking at somewhat of a standard market, but really expanded and created up with an improved idea as to how that could be applied. And then there was another student, and let me come back to this here. Stop. There we go. Another student, actually, I thought this was really fun. Unfortunately, like I said, she developed her documentation and publisher. Please turn in PDFs. But what she did was she actually had developed a product, an idea for a product. It was actually going to be a floral shop. And there was going to be this little character that would help you along. And so say you're someone like me, never knows what kind of flowers to buy. She basically created an interactive experience with this little character where the character would ask you questions about the person that you were purchasing flowers for. What are the types of things that they like? To develop a kind of a palette to work from. And then after you went through all of these quizzes with this little interactive character, it would then suggest to you the person that you're shopping for may want one of these products that we offer. So that was another really fun idea as well. And she got that idea from, I had talked to her about another product. I'm trying to think. Royal Caribbean had a product years ago where they had a suitcase, a talking suitcase, and you would actually put things into the suitcase, and the suitcase would say humorous things. It was animated, and then based on what you put into the suitcase, it was developing a set of data by which to say, we think that you'd like to go on a Alaskan cruise, and then it would do this big song and dance number. So it was really entertaining, and it was a way to get people to engage and potentially sell them a cruise. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that I want you to think about as we're going through this content, because one of the next steps we're going to get into is we're going to have you start to think about what kind of project you might like to work on this semester, and finding that innovative or unique, niche, that hook, is going to be really key to creating something more interesting and fun for that project. Okay? All right. Well, have fun. So spend some time. You've got quite a bit of reading this week. If you have any questions, contact me. I'm glad to help.